Good evening, council members on. Are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can. Left my headphones in my truck, so I'm running out to grab them real quick. Excuse me.
No problem. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We will call the city council budget workshop for Tuesday, August 15th to order, and we will begin with City of Nisswa budget council discussion. Jenny.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Good evening, members of the council. Tonight, we are here to talk about their budget and the progress that we've made from the last meeting and get some council feedback and direction continued so that we can hopefully set the percentage that we would like to see for our preliminary levy that we will present to the public in September. And so tonight I have a PowerPoint, the slides I have printed for you. There's a lot of just supporting information within the packet and in the slides. We may not get to all of it. It's just there in case we need to reference some materials. But I do have a PowerPoint. We'll just start to walk through that. I did provide a copy to council members on via email earlier this afternoon, so hopefully he has it and can reference as we go along.
I sure do. Thank you.
Perfect. So tonight, the goal for our meeting is council overall direction to allow staff to set the 2023 pay 2024 preliminary levy that we would do at our regular meeting in September. The materials that you have in front of you in your packet reflect a proposed 9.98% preliminary levy, and that is based off of council direction that was received in July to aim between the 8 and 10% window. So I am still on the higher end of that. Certainly we can have discussion on whether it's still within that range or anything more or less, but as we still have a handful of unknown items yet to be determined for this year, we're still a little bit early. I didn't want to try to get things too tight before we have more items known with our budget. Contract negotiations being the biggest one, important to have some opportunity to adjust. So with that, we will have two main items that we're going to discuss tonight from our agenda. The first one is provided in a memo that I included in the packet regarding our City Hall exterior improvements. We have a couple of individuals from Winseth here tonight as well to help provide you with information about this project that we have been talking about. So we would be looking for at the end of that council direction on if we want to continue to move forward with that project and what questions you might have or how we can keep that moving forward. And then the second main agenda item we have is council direction on the items noted in, which is item B2 in the packet, the budget memo that I provided. I will walk through each of those items because I would like very specific direction on each of them to make sure that I am including or not including certain things in the budget. The other items in the packet are just supporting documents, as I mentioned, to aid in our discussion. If we have to get into some of the details, we can surely do that. So with that, we will start with our City Hall exterior improvements. As provided in your packet, the estimate for this work is $631,000. It includes a handful of main structural component items, new windows, repairing the roof, and replacement covering the roof area where we've been having the water leak issues, new garage doors, exterior updates, including masonry, downspouts, timber, correcting timber columns, things like that. Correcting the ice buildup issues that we are seeing on this side of the building along the back wall here, and also at the police department staff entrance. We don't have a solution yet or a cost associated, so that would be something we would need to work through in more detail. Bringing probably in more public works staff ideas or things like that, but wanted to include that as a component of how the exterior of the building functions. And then a couple of small accessibility updates that we need to have. We need to have a railing along this ramp here, just things like that. There's not a significant dollar amount with that. And so here it's really small, sorry, on the screen, but in your packet, it's the far right column that reflects the high 0 to 5 year. That is the column we are looking at to do this project. And as I noted at the very bottom, you will see that we're looking in that $631,000 range, plus some additional for some of that ice buildup work that we need to complete as well. The rest of the information I have is regarding the process in which we would move forward with this project should the council want to continue that. So I'd like to pause and get your feedback on this information that I provided. Are you surprised by the numbers? Are you not? Are you comfortable? What kind of questions do you have so that I can look to my friends at WITSEC to help me answer them?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions,
Okay.
actually. The ice buildup, do we know why it's building up? Is it just because it's on the north side, or it doesn't get much sun, or is it some other issue?
Great question. I don't know that I could answer that. Maybe Tom, does Tom know? Sure. Come on up.
So yes, part of it is the north side of the building. I mean, this side here, both the peaked roof comes together, and in two spots off this corner and that corner, the water dumps directly onto the sidewalk. So when it gets cold enough, it falls off, sticks to the concrete, freezes hard, and there's no way to really easily remove it. They should have, when they designed the building, somehow redirected the snow away from that sidewalk, but
So what we want to do is to try to keep that from falling on the sidewalk type issue.
it would be
It-
better
It's
to
not,
redirect it, yeah.
is it causing like leakage too on the roof?
No, but what it does do is it's, both exit doors here. And so it's almost impossible to completely remove it without an extreme amount of salt. So if we do that, it kills the grass. If we leave it, the potential of somebody having to exit in the case of a fire, injuring themselves. So it's not a good situation. The ice removal techniques that we have also damage the sidewalk. So within a few years, the sidewalk's gonna break up enough to where we're gonna have to do something with that anyway.
So are there any ideas at all of how to fix that?
We've explored a few things in years past, like a heated sidewalk possibly, but it gets crazy expensive. And it's not these are not main exits for us, other than the back one, in the hallway for staff. It's possible that the roof could possibly be extended so that it dumps into the grass rather than onto the sidewalk. We've talked about maybe having a hallway off the back here that's enclosed to walk the distance of the building. None of our ideas stand out as great. So,
Well, even if you extend it that way, you'll still have some foliage and build up.
possibly.
But I like the hallway entry, something enclosed.
I think long-term ultimate goal was, if we added on to the building in any way, shape or form, there would be just simply a hallway that goes through there and it wouldn't really be a back sidewalk. And if we did need to have exits, we would direct them away from where the main drainage spots come off the.
So this cost estimate, we're including the ice resolution for this, but is that in that 631,000? No, that's extra then. Okay. But that would be down the road, I take it then, like 5 to 10 years then?
No, we would want to include that
In
in
the high
with this
priority.
project, yes.
Yeah.
So trying to just identify that cost is still to be determined. We need to come up with a solution here,
Okay.
within the next couple of months at most, I would think, to incorporate that if that was deemed to be important as part of the exterior improvements.
Okay,
The other issue is the walk-in door for the police department. There's a downspout comes off the flat roof on that side of the building and it empties in right next to the sidewalk coming out of the door.
Hmm.
And there's bushes and other things just to the right of it that force the water back onto the sidewalk. And again, it's not really north facing, but it's shaded a big part of the day. And so it also freezes and
Mhm.
is difficult to remove. And there also gets to be usually a snow accumulation there in the shrubs, which forces more material into sidewalk.
okay, and then the new windows throughout the building, are these special windows or something that is better than what we have right now?
Well, they would be commercial windows. The current ones are just not serving the purpose. They're leaking and they're not, I'm not thinking of the word, but energy efficient, things like that.
Not
So
as any-
yes,
These
had-
others
we've
would be
had
more
issues.
energy
Yes.
efficient. Mhm,
yes,
mhm.
yes.
Anybody else? Joe?
So I guess it is a big number. A question if all of these are needs or some of them are wants, for instance, the LED lighting throughout for 125,000. Yeah,
So that's not in the high column. That's not what we're talking about.
okay,
That's just only the far right column are the items we're considering.
okay,
So when the facility study was done at the end of 2021, we just included as many things as we could think of to make sure we're evaluating the building.
okay.
But really that top section is the section of the items that would be considered. And I would say these are all needs as far as addressing the building.
So what was
Keeping it
the budget number last time this was done? I feel like on the sheet we saw earlier this winter, the number was less than this.
It was,
Quite a bit.
so there's been a 5% added to it, just a 5% increase
Yeah.
from these numbers.
So I guess maybe for Tom, does this include everything, not include everything? From your perspective, what you know about the building?
I guess I haven't really recently reviewed the newest proposal, but I would say, for instance, LED lighting, there are probably some options there. We've improved some of the lights already to LED, so I don't know if that's necessarily, that would have to be reviewed by us. I think things like the sheetrock here in the entryway, those in the windows, the garage doors on the police department, a lot of those items do need to be done.
Mhm.
Do we have like any return on investment ROI on, say, like the new windows that are more energy efficient, say they're put in here, compared to the energy costs that we pay every year to heat the place or to cool it? Do we have, did they provide any type of information like that? How quickly you get the payback?
So when we've upgraded a lot of the lights to LEDs, we've gotten one rebates from the power company. to
Okay.
help with the cost of the installation.
Mhm.
In most cases, switching it to an LED within, I believe it's 7 years, we get the payback. They
Okay.
save enough energy that they pay for any fixture changes.
What about the windows? Did they do anything on that?
I haven't had anybody do an energy assessment on the windows.
Yeah.
What's the structural timber column pertaining to? It's on the far right column.
Excuse me, I need to get my glasses. I can't read.
I would have to, I don't know if Mike, can you answer? Perfect, because
Those are the front ones, if I remember correctly.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Anglin with Woodseth, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. So the timber columns, that is pertaining to the north side. And again, getting back to the water issue and the ice. So what's happening out there is that those slabs are starting to heave. So when we have the freeze thaw, that's what we're running into. And so then when we're having that freeze thaw and the heaving, then with the structural columns, we're seeing that a bit as well. So that's what we're referencing. So when we take a look at the north side and we take a look at the ice and the issues that are occurring, you know, we're taking a look at it as simply number one, we can start to put some gutters, downspouts, get the water away. That's actually an issue that we can solve all the way around the building, all four sides, including over on the east side of the building with PD. On the north side here, we could also take a look at, we've even looked at maybe doing a shallower pitch that comes off. And then there's just another roof section that could then carry that off so that it's, you know, not in the way. And then when we're replacing these concrete sections out here, we could potentially do some below grade rain leaders, and that could go down to the north side where we have the lower retention area. So that's what that structural item represents. And also, when we take a look at the list here, you know, like Administrator Max had mentioned, we're looking at just a high priority item. So we're certainly looking at the needs. And as far as a return on investment, so what we could do with windows, very true, you know, like with appliances and fixtures, mechanical equipment, you can look at actual rebates that you could potentially look at. What we could do is look at the building envelope itself and try to at least quantify what the R value is of your envelope so that you could at least see what that savings is there. So, I mean, we could provide some additional information there that would just try to help support the investment with the new windows.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm used to, you know,
Yeah.
from, I used to do a lot of that, having to manage those things.
Yeah,
And generally speaking, if you don't have like a 5-year return on
Payback.
investment, you don't
Mhm.
want to, it's not worth it.
yeah,
And it's you know, we have nice windows, but if they're not efficient,
mhm,
that's a problem. And if we could replace it and you have an ROI within 5 years, hopefully 3,
sure.
then of course, it's a no-brainer. But to me, doing the roof, you know, you don't want to have degradation of the
Right,
building.
right.
So the roof is a necessary one. That's a need, not a
Mhm.
want. And then you're saying that the ice issue out here is also degrading maybe the foundation or
Yeah.
that
yeah,
area.
at
And
the
that's a
columns.
need
Mhm,
in my mind.
right.
But like windows and lighting,
Mhm,
to make a big change, like in our factory, we made a change and we
mhm,
did have a ROI within 2 years.
Sure.
So that's worth it.
Yeah.
But if it's going to be 7 to 10 years,
Mhm.
I don't know if I would really think they'd be that great.
Yeah, and the other thing that we take a look at, so the facility assessment, if you recall, we're also just taking a look at the life expectancy of equipment of the roofing and based on when the building was constructed. So we're taking that into account too. So it's really all about asset management. It's trying to identify and understand what the useful life of everything is and trying to get a plan in place for those replacement schedules. And so that's going into that as well. And as far as with the windows, so what we had recommended is a commercial window, aluminum storefront window. Now, there are a lot of different windows that we are looking at and installing that. As we take a look at the bottom line here, the overall number that you feel comfortable with your levy, you know, this document that we had put together a couple of years ago, it's an Excel spreadsheet and we're able to take a look at different scenarios in terms of what projects have priority for you. And when we take a look at what the solutions are, like for example, on the north side and on the east side, that's where we can really take a look at the next steps anyway, is just to find the appropriate solutions, what the right investment is And when you take a look at the useful life of this building in particular, that's really one of the questions that we need to ask is just what's the right investment there? So, you know, again, we, at least at this point today, what's being presented is what we've identified as the high priority items.
Well, if you take care of the structural timber columns without addressing the heaving, and then you're just back to square one again. So I think that's one area we have to address before we can even do the columns. I know they have to be done, but I mean, that's one thing we should look at. You know, how are we going to address that? What can we do?
Right. And with that structural number there with 18,000, you know, the column itself is fine. And it's really just making sure that we're addressing the issue that's back there. So we have some replacement of that concrete already factored in with that number. So it's really working on that area around those columns and ensuring that we're not having any heaving. One of the things is it's going to be a bit investigative when we take out that concrete that's back there now is that down to frost footing depth? If it's not, do we need to take a look at putting some rigid insulation and making sure that frost isn't penetrating down and that's why we're experiencing that. But the other thing is, again, just the amount of water that's just standing and staying right next to the building. How can we come up with a solution to get that water away? That'll address the heaving issue and then also just the degradation of all the concrete back there. Maybe we don't need all of that concrete back there either. You know, maybe what gets replaced back in there works well for staff and makes the most sense. So there's a bit more investigation into that. You know, what we've done thus far with the facility study is just to basically say there's a problem. And we're just trying to address and put a dollar number to having a remedy for that. But knowing that maybe on the north side of the building, we want to keep that the way it is moving forward. Let's just take a look at what's there and find the most economical solution for that.
Would it be safe to say, council, that we probably like a little more information then before we move?
Yeah.
We'd like to know about the ice mitigation and that what can and can't be done, and maybe to your point, a little bit of what you had mentioned about the
ROI.
Maybe walk around and look at it with Tom or something.
Yeah, and we, just so you all know, when we did walk through, we certainly invite staff to walk through this just to give us the history of the building and even, you know, history and a record of, you know, who's been maintaining the building from from a contractor standpoint. We can reach out and find out some of the history there too. So yeah, we could definitely do that again. Walk through the building again.
Maybe it makes sense to do a walk around with council.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
But
That would be
then the other, if I'm reading this chart correctly, on your best assessment, within 10 years, we'd be looking at maybe 1.5, $1.6 million worth of renovations over the whole course of 10 years.
I think that's also assuming an addition, which I don't think is part of that. So this hasn't been updated for the recent conversations. But I'm guessing that was part of the addition here. Oh no, I think that was below. So never mind. You're correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, just because that's a good number to know about as we think about the other topics of discussion we're talking about.
And I guess for me, if to really make any type of determination, if first of all, more information, you know, and then I would really like to see what the ROI would be on that. And the most expensive item on here is the roof, the single ply system, roofing system.
correct.
And I understand from the beginning, we've had trouble with leakage on the roof. We should never have had that in the first place. So will this take care of that?
Yeah, and there's two things, the existing flat roof currently, so that's reaching in the end of its useful life, and then also the clear story roof. So I know I've been aware of that for 10 years just personally, and I think I've been up here with Mark Allen even dating back to when he was here, and in the facility study and then in our presentation, in my opinion, what would work well is to just not rely on a flat roof above that clear story anymore. And when you go up there and you take a look at all the caulking that's been done, what we're trying to do to make that flat roof work is just to go away from that. And So if you recall, I did a little image there where I'm proposing just to do a sloped roof over the whole thing. And then that way it's just a continuous roof from north and south. And when we put replacement windows back in, we specify the correct height so that we can ensure that we're bringing the flat roof up, we're flashing it properly so that we're not getting any water infiltration from the bottom side of those windows either. So we'll have a sloped roof that has the appropriate overhangs. We're going to make sure that the windows are up high enough off of the flat roof portion itself. So that's our proposed solution. We have thought that through. And to me, that seems like the best solution.
So is there any like warranty or guarantee on that afterwards?
It'd be the same warranty or guarantee I would do on any project. I mean, that's just how it is with a design that I would put together. I mean, I have to stand behind that. So
Mhm.
whether or not it's a roof or, you know, it's any other project, we as a company would warranty our design. So in my mind, walking up there and looking at it and seeing how it was designed, what I just described to you would be the right solution, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm open to having further conversations, getting up there with you folks and continuing that conversation, but I do feel like that's the right thing to do.
Okay, so if we can, you know, get the proper way of fixing the roof,
Mhm.
make sure that the foundation isn't degraded.
Mhm.
Those are the most important things in my mind.
Okay.
Then all the other things, I'd like to see what the ROI would be, you know, like the LED lighting, the windows. Are we
LED
looking
lighting
a
isn't
long time?
included in what we're looking at.
I'm
Right.
sorry?
LED lighting isn't included. in
Oh,
what we're
okay.
looking at, Just.
So it's
mainly
just the windows.
Basically.
Okay,
It's just the column on the right-hand side where it says high 0 to 5 years.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
So would we like to have something put together where we could do a walkthrough?
Yep.
If you council could be invited.
Yep.
Tom.
I'm thinking maybe before the September meeting, Well-
That's a good idea.
we'll
Yeah.
just
Very good.
Well,
piggyback that.
I guess one question, do we want to try and still get some of this work done this calendar year before another winter of issues?
So my recommendation, and we should talk about that, so you have a picture of this as part of your overall assessment of this as we continue to discuss it, is what this Gordian procurement process looks like. My recommendation is that we would consider a bond for this, potentially if there are other things that we can incorporate into that as part of other discussions, but that would be my recommendation, so we're not drawing down too much of our cash reserves. So that would be my suggestion consideration. So likely it would not impact the 2024 budget, just based on timing and getting this process done thoroughly, vetted, making sure we figure out everything that we need to, and then making, you know, and then going through the bond issuance process, bringing in the contractor and things like that. I'll have Mike discuss this, working with the contractor process, because it's a little bit different than normal, but that's my suggestion as far as the cost paying for it.
Last year, wasn't there some money allocated for this already, for this project?
No,
Or for interior remodel or something?
no.
Okay.
Mike, would you mind kind of talking about the Gordian process?
Yeah, you bet. So we've been involved in, I've been involved in a lot of building projects, obviously with public entities, so with municipalities or counties. And so one of the things that we've been working on recently is working through what's called the Gordian process. And this is working through Sourcewell. And as you know, there's a certain threshold on a publicly funded project where if it exceeds a certain dollar amount, you need to publicly advertise for that, put it out for public bidding. And so one of the ways of delivering a project is that we work within the Gordian process. And so through this process, there are certain vendors that are approved. And those vendors are general contractors or construction managers. So what this allows is that if you do the project through Gordian, it satisfies all state statutes in terms of a publicly funded project. They have a pricing set for a project. So the Gordian system is essentially a database that has a database of pricing on projects. And it basically includes all divisions of construction. And so what that serves is that basically a cross check in terms of what a project should cost. And once again, it does satisfy the public bidding requirements. So what happens is then whoever wants to be within a certain area, they would be an approved vendor. So for example, we've done a project with the Brainerd School District through this process. We've done projects with Crow Wing County. And one of the things that's nice about it is that you're working with some known entities, local contractors, and then also it expedites the process a bit. So when we're talking about taking a look at some of these maintenance items, we feel that it would work pretty well, and it would work pretty quickly. And it also allows us to work with a contractor in developing the scope, the schedule, and having some time as we work through design. So it's more of a collaborative process. We're able to get back to you and give you updates in terms of how the project is coming along when we design it, what the cost is looking like. So it's the constant back and forth with the contractor. And so it's just a nice way to provide you with that feedback, working with local contractors that are known entities. And then again, it just gives everybody a comfort level for when the project begins. Everybody feels very educated in terms of what's been drawn, what it's going to cost, and the schedule. So it's a method that we could pursue. We could do the traditional design bid build and go out for public bid as well. But it's an idea. It's something to consider. And again, it's something that I've done with local public entities.
Do you have an idea what the additional cost associated with something like this is?
You know, there is a percentage in working with them, and typically what I do then is I'll set up a conference call with the client and them and myself, and then we'll talk through the process and we can answer that specifically. I don't know that right off the top of my head.
Okay.
Right now. But it is something you can definitely find, you know, it's part of the discussion prior to you making a commitment. Yep.
So just to wrap up that item, Mike will work with staff to bring, update some of this information, provide some more details. We will work on the items that would be applicable for the ROI, get some information, and then we will plan to have a council walkthrough of the project in September. If anything happens that comes up that we need to adjust the schedule, I'll communicate with that, but that would be, sounds like the plan for moving forward. Is that capturing
what I
everything?
That's what I would like to see. Jill.
Okay. Okay.
That,
I'm in favor.
yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I will add though that we are going through some pretty substantial construction costs for our new office in Baxter, and a lot of these line items really don't seem too far out of line, with the note that there's a 20% contingency at the bottom of this for $87,000. So
Thank you, Jesse.
after this walkthrough, it'll be better to understand. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, the next thing we will discuss then is the 2024 budget, and per the memo I have for you, I have some specific council direction I'm looking for on the following things to make sure that I am not omitting or not including things that the council would desire to have differently. I do have one addition that I did not get in my memo, so we'll add that to the end, and we can reference any of the other documents as we go through here. Again, the items that I incorporated and not, I'll mention as we go with each one so you understand where the 9.98% levy at this point is reflective of that. So the first item I have is a consideration for funding a donation to the Lakes Area Food Shelf. They requested $5,000 for 2024. I have not included anything in the budget for that. Looking for council direction.
If I may lead on this, I am currently on the board for Lakes Area Food Shelf. With my understanding of where the food shelf's financials are at, and with how aggressive they are seeking to get funds, not just from cities like municipals like us, but some other grants, some other foundations. I'm going to encourage the city of Nisswa to deny this request with respect to the Lakes Area Food Shelf. If anybody else has any questions to my reasoning on that, I'd be happy to explain more, but that is my opinion on the matter.
Thank you, Jesse. Mark?
No, let's say,
I would agree with Jesse. I
Okay,
think we should not do that.
should not.
okay.
Yeah.
I will not include that. Thank you. We do receive a request annually from the Historical Society. There was no specific dollar amount requested. We have not historically donated to the Historical Society, but wanted to ask the question.
I think we should maintain our status that we've done in the past
Okay,
at this.
I'm in agreement to deny it.
okay. I see head nods.
I
Okay,
agree.
that's consensus. We will not include that in the budget. Thank you. The
I
next
can't
item
really see
is,
the head.
go
Oh,
ahead.
you said head nods in agreement to nod. Sorry, I was looking at my small screen here and I
oh,
couldn't see the head nods. I thought they were disagreeing. Understood.
got it. Sorry about that.
No, that's my bad.
Item number 3, public safety funding. As mentioned at the last workshop, the city will receive one-time funding in the amount of $88,962. Council can decide how it would like to distribute this between police and fire. My recommendation is that we split the amount 50-50, and that amount would go into their capital improvement plans to support equipment, vehicles, things like that. I did ask both the police and fire chiefs their ideas and thoughts for using the money. Chief Taylor indicated he would like to see any funding that would be allocated for police go towards the cost of the new office manager employee request. And Chief Bailey indicated that they would like to use, fire department would like to use any funding allocated to them to pay for some new hose, kind of taking the oldest ones and bringing them out of cycle and bringing in some new hose. Also, as a part of that discussion, we realized that we don't have hoses included in our capital improvement plan, and we should add that because it's over $100,000 to replace all of them. So we will do that. But those were the comments received from both our police and fire chief, and would like council feedback on how you would like to allocate those funds.
I think if the money's there for public safety, we split it 50-50, and that's what those departments want to do with it. I'm good.
Jenny, I have a question in regards to the actual budget that we have prepared for this new office assistant for the police department. Is this office assistant is currently being factored in for his or her full amount of salary and benefits
So
for the projection of the budget?
I have included a half year amount budgeted for this person. So that person would be onboarded in July, just trying to, manage everything and coming up with an idea of how to make that work. So I've included 50% cost for that employee. So the question would be, do you want to use this money to offset that 50%? Or do you want to see that money used to fund more of a year for that employee, if that's the consensus, as Mayor Ryan has suggested, or do you want to?
If the decision is made, my position on it as liaison is if the decision, if we're going to budget it and we are going to go forward with the actual position, if that's the final decision that that's made, then I would add this, perhaps we can get that person on board sooner than
Okay.
later. So
Right.
that's not supplement.
Yeah,
Right.
looking at the 50%
be my
wages
opinion.
looking at the 50% for the office manager for the year, that would be 38,250. Out of 88,000, so 50,000 left over.
I will caution everyone on the council will remember then that in 2025, or when we're budgeting for 2025, we have to include
That person.
that other
Yeah.
part in the levy automatically, so that it's a
Yeah.
balanced budget.
Right.
So there's that cost off the top, so that's there, so be it a half an employee or whatever, so just, but I would like, if having that there would allow us to get that person on board sooner or longer, more of the year covered, then I'm fine with that. That's my position.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, so using those proceeds to get this office assistant on to start in January and then still budget for the 50% as presented.
Well, January or, you know.
Yeah.
February,
We
March.
started the
somewhere
process in
that first part of
January
it.
and it
Yeah.
does that, so.
Yeah.
Sometime prior to.
I'm on board
you know,
with that.
Depending on
I'm
what
on
we
board with
get
that.
for applicants, you know. that
I'm
kind
on
of
board with
stuff.
that. I think it's smart.
So let me just make sure I'm confirming as far as the split allocation,
Yes, perfect.
Fine.
This is public
Yeah.
safety and just let
Half-half.
half a half.
half and half.
Then let
Okay.
them manage it.
Yeah.
That's my feeling too.
Right, let them manage it how they want.
I don't want to micromanage them on that.
No,
On board.
Thank you. Make sure I get that note. Great. Camp Lincoln Road parcels. I have included, so an estimated cost for the bathroom, the road and the parking lot is 100,000. I think the previous document said 97,000. I just rounded just to work through all of these numbers. My recommendation is that we use our remaining available ARPA funds. Right now it's $38,000. It will be a little bit more than that due to the interest that it's earning whenever we would get to that project in 2024. My recommendation is to use those funds because that's really the only project we have committed to doing and we have to get done next year. And so we have from time to time discussed other ideas for using ARPA funds. My suggestion is that this is the must get done project. So that would be the use for those funds. And budgeting $62,000 included in the parks capital improvement plan. So that is included in the budget as of now. The nice thing about that is in 2024, the thought was we would use those funds to help get Camp Lincoln done. And then we can roll that into the parks capital improvement plan to really boost that up going forward, which I think is a big need, as everybody knows. So that is, let me just make sure. Nope, that is my recommendation for how to take care of the cost component for Camp Lincoln and the allocation of funds.
I'm good with that.
How is the study going on that? Do we know?
The archaeological study hasn't started yet, but I think the goal was end of October, sometime in this fall, to have everything done before winter and things like that. So we know what we're dealing with and can plan for 24.
I'm also in favor with the proposed.
Any
I am.
Okay,
Me too.
great. Thank you. Parks marketing, I did not include any funds for parks marketing. I wanted to leave that up for council discussion. As far as last month, we talked a bit about specifically marketing for Camp Lincoln and trying to fundraise to get money for that project. I think because of the really tight timeline, that's going to be difficult to do, and we don't want to cause any delays with getting that project done. If there are ideas or desires to incorporate marketing for the broader parks improvements that we're looking at doing, that's something to consider. But I did not include any money in that and want to open that up for council discussion.
Where does Amber stand on that?
Amber's here. I don't want to speak for Amber, even though we've talked about it, trying to wrap her head around what that would look like.
Yep.
Thank you. Jenny and I talked about the Camp Lincoln component of it, and we both agree on that one, that the timing just might not be right to fundraise kind of the Camp Lincoln component. So the question here is just in general, we know we have a substantial amount for City Park coming down the line. I will say through all of the marketing discussions, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it and what that looks like and what those next steps might be. So in terms of how to use any funding, I would certainly like more discussion, more feedback, more direction as to how to kind of move through this process, and just hear the ideas and, get some of your expertise on that. So yes, really trying to get moving forward with some of the City Park would be more so how I see any funding for marketing going.
Okay.
If and when, and especially how.
That's the big one now.
Well, just in general, I would view the marketing for the park something that would be ongoing, even after the parks go on, maintenance, memorials, as we did that park tour the other day, there's people, you said the one park, had a lot of benches and memorials, but there's always, I think, people looking to donate to stuff like that. And so I guess I would like to see money kept in there to start it. I mean, it has to start at some point, and yes, it doesn't happen overnight. You need more time to meet, to figure out the correct steps for the city. But at least I would like to see it get started, because without it, we're never going to get any return on it. And so I guess I'd like to see it in there at some dollar amount so we can keep moving in that direction.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that idea, but I think the reason why we're doing this or that recommendation is to keep it below 10% for this year. I mean, if we're willing to go over that, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, at the end, we can circle back and look at our percentages and then maybe assign some dollar amount to this, but I don't think that we want to just completely dismiss it because of the percentage.
Jesse?
I think that we're gonna have a hard time getting people to understand what we have going on over at Camp Lincoln. But with this really not taking place, construction's not taking place till 2024. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so incorporating funds of this year, I don't really have any other recommendations outside of what Amber's putting forth here. Yeah, I would just leave it as is.
I understand the idea of the marketing and having something there, but I think if once we get a better plan of what that marketing is going to be and how we should approach it and go for it. We do have some allocated funds. We could do a small portion out of that or something. And kind of test that water, see how our plans are working that we come up with, that kind of thing. And then staff can work with their committees or whatever, or the council, and tweak it. And then we could maybe come back and, the next budget cycle and say, okay, this marketing works. This is what's working. This is what our response is. And then hit that so we can get those donations. So we can get those people that want to come in and donate and things. Maybe we can find another Millie out there.
Yeah, whatever we can do.
I understand that, but I think for this, I agree with what's in here. I'm on board with what Amber's saying, and whatnot, but I think it's something that we can continue to look at during the year, the rest of this year and next year, and come up with a good marketing plan. And then go forward from there with what works. So I would concur with what's in here.
So I'm gonna make sure because we're a bit split. Mark said yes to include, Joe said yes to include, John said no.
No.
Mark said no.
To keep it
Jesse,
under 10%.
and Jesse concurred with the memo, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
We will keep it as is. And certainly, those are discussions Amber and I are continuing to have. We want to continue to figure out what that looks like. We have this 3D renderings coming from the playground yet this year, so we're gonna keep working on that and bring you any ideas or suggestions as we come up with them and move them forward. Oh, sorry, number 6, police new employee office manager. Based on the conversation we just had, we will essentially be able to fund the entire year of the office manager. So I will update that accordingly. Public Works, couple items in Public Works. So their new employee request. I did not include any amount for the Public Works employee, as I noted in my memo. I think that is certainly a goal that we can work towards, but at this time, I think because of the considerations on what that looks like, what position, how does that incorporate with parks, if any, how we can streamline those operations. and any associated equipment needs for the employee. I did not include any funds for this employee request. So with that, council can give me some direction if you'd like that, or if you'd like something else to be considered.
I was just wondering Tom, what do you think about that?
I guess I'm not pleased with the idea. I think we needed the employee. And I expressed that opinion back in April. I understand the dilemma we're in with the budget and the levy increase, but organizing the departments isn't gonna fix the shortage of labor that we have. We know we need at least one guy already. We're pretty sure we need a second guy in our sewer department to begin training, and this budget will accomplish neither of those. It pushes it off a year. I guess I was hoping at this meeting that we were gonna be discussing whether to add that employee or not. And then adjust the budget accordingly, not necessarily kick it to the next year.
So this
If I might
person,
add.
go ahead,
Go
Jesse.
ahead, Mark. Okay. On this specific line, I've had a chance to talk with Tom about it one-on-one. I've had a chance to talk to my neighbor, Mike Wagner, about this extensively over a cold one in his shop. I actually, being as conscious as we possibly can with our fiscal obligations and what's to come, especially with inflation as is, it's difficult to make a difficult decision. We pushed off the 2 additional hires of the office manager or office assistant for the PD, and then we did the same thing for Tom and his department last year. I am in the strong opinion I'd like to make a case to add this individual for Public Works. This is something I think we've all been informed on for quite some time. And I would like to make a case on Tom's behalf, or the Public Works Department's behalf, and City of Nisswa's behalf to try to add this person.
I guess, correct. I agree with Jesse, before when Tom had spoke, is, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Part of the reason to hire somebody now too is to help train them, learn through everything before Mike would retire potentially.
We do have some time, but yeah, what it helps us do is we have at least one person in the maintenance department who has expressed interest in working in sewer.
Yeah.
And by adding this third person, it creates some opportunities for him to do some more cross training over there ahead of time.
Right.
Where would this person actually work, or what would department, or what?
So the new
area?
person would be in the maintenance department most of the time. Now, the thing to understand with that is all of the maintenance employees also do on-call in the sewer department, and they also cross-train. So even though he would report to Mike Deck as the maintenance supervisor, and he would do most of his duties in the maintenance department, there would be times he will be required to work in sewer as well.
What we're trying to do here is, I know Jenny's been working hard to try to keep it down below 10%. And that, that's important too. But for me, I've always felt, if we need them, we can go up. I mean, I'm in favor of going higher, but if we put someone in, we're probably looking at what, about 12%?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
13.
at least, I mean,
12,
it's about
13.
3% for an employee roughly, so.
So that would be that increase in the levy. And if everybody else agrees with that, then, for me personally, I think, I can go for 13%, even though I have to pay the taxes. I don't want to, but, I think it's necessary. We are looking at people who are retiring and, other projects coming up here for training purposes too. But I would like to really see that good plan as well, you know, how that person will be brought in, how they'll be utilized. And how that will help the department. I think you said a lot of it, but more like, you know, how much of the overtime can be reduced and things like that too. That can help.
I look at, I'm looking at, you know, personnel requests. And then also looking at the equipment request, the plow truck. Not meaning to jump ahead of you here, but obviously, I don't know, we're gonna have to do that.
Mhm.
But then there's other equipment requests that we have as well. And I know from this memo, the matrix will be underfunded, will be short. According to the data that we have here in the deal, how do we make that up? What other, you know, if we add a person, what does that do for equipment that we don't have listed already? Are we gonna need additional equipments, trucks, things of that nature?
Eventually, yes, we would be looking to add probably some pickup trucks. However, we can operate with this extra person in 2024 without adding that equipment. So I would be looking to add that equipment in 25 or beyond.
So should we have a better picture what all that looks like beforehand?
Yeah.
Or you know,
Well,
I mean, that's another question to look at, or. If you know, if we were to eliminate. The equipment requests. Because of the new employee, what does that do to the levy? Does that keep it down? You know, where does that number fall? That's what I would need to know, because I can't go. I honestly, in good conscience, can't vote for a levy higher than what we've already said than what we were at. I can't, I just couldn't. So how do we bring that number? How do we keep that number? Or bring it down so that, because we have a lot of people in the community that are, you know, it was very vocal. They were very vocal at the last, you know, that they wanted to see they did not want to see their taxes go up as much as it has in the last 2 years.
Give the new guy a shovel and get rid of this mini excavator.
Hey, there you go. If he's big enough, go for it. But I'm just saying, you know, I mean, that's just my opinion on where I'm at. I can't see going. The levy is.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, you
I
know,
would need more information on how that would all break out.
we're adding a new park, we're adding more infrastructure. I mean, if, you know,
Oh, I'm not,
give the park back to the county.
I'm not
I mean-
doubting that the need is there at all. It's just adding 2 or more employees in the same year might be a little bit bigger than the people in the community might be willing to want to accept. Especially when they see their taxes go up that much higher. Again, we've already bumped them 23% in 2 years. So you know, that's just, you know, from the feedback from some people that have talked, and, you know, haven't had an enormous amount of backlash, but we did have a good input during when the taxpayers were here last, so.
And something to maybe give the council some feedback on is whether this is for the purposes of being able to continue the conversation and we're just leaving ourselves room for this option in the budget is one thing, and fair to staff to be very clear if that's your intent, as opposed to, yes, I want to see this in the budget 100%, and we're not, you know, we're not going to take it out later, because I think that's just fair to make sure we understand either we're still in this, we want to leave it as an option phase, but based on feedback from last month, if you're looking at that 8 to 10 or something, right, then we're going to have to talk about if we add things, you know, how do we subtract other things? So I'm just wanting to make sure that from our perspective, you see the challenge with that. It's fine to add it as the preliminary if you want to have that as an option for conversation. But I don't want to give a false sense of hope if it's something still to be considered or not on the final, if that makes sense.
I would say then, keep it as an option yet, not to close, not to say no at this point.
Well, I'm just looking at the new employee, the plow truck, vehicle lift, snow blower, excavator, grapple. What's the number one thing out of all of those that you want or you need, I should say?
So clearly the plow truck is the priority number one.
All right.
However, the thing to recognize with the excavator and the grapple is that's in the sewer department, so it won't affect levy.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
How much of the new employee comes out of the sewer one?
This
None.
one would be all out of maintenance and in the general levy.
So that would,
Can you just allocate it to the sewer?
Not
It's
unless
just
that's really appropriate to do.
Would be a portion of it appropriate if that's what they're being
No.
trained on?
It's gotta be
Right, Tom?
separated.
50%?
Well, I guess the precedent there is my salary is 50/50.
Yeah.
So
Mike?
you could split it, I guess. I think the thing to understand is in a year or two, we're gonna be looking at adding an actual sewer employee. Now, you could reallocate this person at that time and say at that time he shifts 100% to maintenance. I guess that's a call you have to make. I would say any one of the maintenance guys typically works in the sewer department 10 to 25% of their time.
That helps.
Something we will have probably in the next couple months is our PFM cash flow analysis. So you'll want to consider impacts to the sewer budget with respect to rates and things like that as well. So keep that in mind. Certainly that's, an option if that's appropriate to do that, but we want to see what those numbers look like based on revenues and projections.
when did PFM start that, Tom, or anybody, do you know?
We've had them doing a cash flow analysis for us for at least 5 years. I would have to look back to see how long it's actually been, but
But when did they start this latest one? Is that just an ongoing thing?
so for 2023, they've just begun it. So what will likely happen is by the time we have our next meeting, you will likely have a first draft of that, I think.
Okay.
So I believe that I heard Jesse, Mark, Joe say yes, include that in the budget. Okay. so
Correct.
We will do that.
Yep.
for preliminary. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Plow truck, we did discuss this last month. In the regular packet is the request to place the order with the lead time involved. So that has been included in the budget. I don't assume there's any issues
that-
there.
Yep.
And the new vehicle lift and new snow blower, both of those items have been incorporated into the capital improvement plan for Public Works. I'll pause if there's any questions or feedback with respect to those items.
Where does that leave the capital improvement fund?
That is that note just below there. So essentially, because of the large purchase we will make in 24 with the plow truck, the fund will be underfunded. So the general fund will be loaning the money to that fund to pay it back. And the hope is that you build back those funds pretty quickly. There's a few years here where that's going to not quite be the case. And I think as we continue the conversation with, the employee as far as what equipment needs to be added, because there is no equipment consideration for that employee yet. So we just want to make sure we're mindful that timing of equipment purchases is such that we're keeping that fund pretty solvent as best we can. It's not a perfect system considering the range of costs of the equipment, but we just want to keep an eye on that. Okay. Second to last, so sewer, mini excavator and grapple, those items have been included in the budget. That will be a part of the PFM conversation, and we will bring back a cash flow analysis from them to use in consideration if you want to still continue that, including that in the budget. I do have a question for Tom, though. Because there's information, there's quotes here on those items. What is the lead time we're looking at for those items? Because it's a little confusing thinking about when to purchase, but we haven't seen that information from PFM. And I think that's important to get first. I don't know if there's a timing issue with that.
Okay, so from what I understand is both pieces of equipment are available immediately. They are present in the Kubota dealer in Baxter.
My
Is that
question,
what you're meaning?
my question for you, Tom, was the larger Kubota of the one they have on the lot, would the other one be better or not?
They're very similar. One has what's called a zero tail swing. The other one has a weight that extends a little
Right.
further back.
Okay, so that's,
You want zero tail without a doubt.
So that's the one that we're requesting. It's also
Okay.
happens to be slightly less expensive.
okay,
Okay,
all right.
good.
So the question for me though, because then that's really a 23 purchase. So you want to spend money now? Can we not get it in 24 if we ordered it in January? Do you- do you
could get it. The price may
change.
change.
Okay,
The price is just going up, correct?
Yeah.
It might.
So if PFM comes back and it's there and we're gonna do it anyway, then if it's there already, get it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I agree. Or secondly, do it in 2024.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
The money for the excavator is in the 23 budget.
Okay, right. But then,
John with PFM did allow for that purchase in 23.
all right,
Good.
and this does
Hey,
not.
Tom,
Yes.
well, I didn't mean to interrupt. Tom, I got a nice used excavator that I could donate to you if you like. It doesn't have a manufacturer date, but 2020.
So here's my question, and because we are running into over here. So then this is gonna have to get factored into your matrix for replacement and stuff. And are we looking at that? Because if you add another employee, then you're adding more. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, the excavator's already in the sewer matrix.
okay,
So what we have planned out for 2023 and beyond was with the idea that this excavator would be purchased.
no, this is a zero impact to the levy.
Mhm.
so would you like to, I'm thinking here, would you like to see that?
Incorporate kept,
Get the information from PFM and then likely authorize the purchase? Move that forward?
correct. Joe's, yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Jesse's,
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Last item I didn't include, but I did include an idea last month about improvements at our County 18 roundabout. So I incorporated $10,000. The total cost is 20, trying to split years with costs, but I didn't know if that was something the council would like to see improved aesthetically as something in the city as part of maintenance approach and things like that. And so I have included $10,000. We wanted your feedback on that. We didn't circle back to that one last month.
Anybody?
no,
Mark?
Sure. I don't know.
I'd say no, not at this time.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
have to say so too. I like the idea, but not
Sure.
now.
Okay, that's fine.
We gotta-
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Does the
That's
council?
majority.
Yep, thank you. Does the council have a concern with, as I make the adjustments as we have tonight, just bringing whatever that number is to our preliminary levy discussion in September? Do you want another meeting to talk about it, or can we just, whatever that final, it's gonna be 13%, 13% plus or minus for the preliminary levy? Are you comfortable with that?
What's it, where are we gonna?
Probably roughly 13?
what is your exact question?
Do you want to have another budget workshop before the approval of the preliminary levy?
Yeah, I
Or-
think it'd be good to meet again quick.
Yeah, I think so too. We should meet again.
If we can coordinate
Well-
it with through.
Sure.
My only suggestion on this would be that if we're gonna have another meeting, that we have any questions that we have answered prior to getting right up to that point. Because this preliminary is what everybody's, just a reminder, and I know y'all know this, but that's what everybody's gonna be seeing. And when they come in December, they're gonna be thinking that the preliminary is what the actual is gonna be, being it's gonna be published. So,
That's what happens.
obviously
let's have
last year
another-
it wasn't too pretty.
Let's
Right.
put it together and then let's have another budget meeting. Just
Okay. We'll schedule before
standalone
the
meeting.
regular September meeting. Yes.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Thank you very, any other questions on the budget? We covered everything I needed. I appreciate your feedback.
I would
Um,
recommend that council members continue to look at this and come in and ask questions of the city administrator as you get them, shoot them to you or, and the staff. Okay.
Motion to adjourn and then
Yeah,
we'll,
motion to
a
adjourn.
couple minutes just to reset everything.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay. 5 seconds or 5 minutes. If you gotta use the restroom or anything, anybody?
seen
Okay,
a few.
okay,